Greetings, friends. It's Pat back with another episode of Let's Talk Travel. And let me just tell you, fasten your seatbelts. You are going to want to stay tuned for this one. We're going to be talking about Africa and our clients, Jamie and John, who just got back from a trip. And it was a great trip, and it was a very unusual trip. We've got lots of fabulous pictures. So stay tuned, and bringing them on here. Greetings. Hi, Jamie. Hi, John.
Hi, Pat.
Hi.
We are so glad that you agreed to join us this evening, because I am just so excited for you guys to tell us about your recent trip to Africa. Do you mind? We always start. I know you guys have been guests before, but would you like to just start by telling us just a little bit about yourselves, your background, so people know you a little bit?
Sure. I'm a patent attorney, and I have been traveling with Pat as my travel agent for at least maybe 5-10 years, Pat. It's been a long time. It's been a while.
Yeah. And that was back in my law office days. I think you booked your first trip when we were working together at Kilpatrick Townsend way back when.
Right. That's right. And John?
Hi, I'm John. I'm Jamie's husband. That's my job. I'm a software engineer, but as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm not from around these parts. I'm actually originally from Britain, but I've been in the States about 12 years now, 11 of which I've been married. No, all of which I've been married to Jamie.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, we're delighted to have you on board and talk about your recent trip to Africa. Now, let's just start with focusing on your itinerary, because Africa is a pretty good-sized continent after all, and there's a lot of possibilities. How long was your trip? Where'd you go?
So the trip was... depends on whether you count the travel days or not, but it was 12 days. It took pretty much a day to get there and a day to get back, and the time differences taken into account. And we went to 2 countries. We went to South Africa first, and then we went to Zimbabwe, and then back to South Africa.
And we chose those places primarily because in our party was Jamie's 90-year-old father. Yes, you heard me correct, 90. And so we chose the trip that took us to Johannesburg so that we could just fly direct there from Atlanta. It's a lot easier to get to South Africa than it would have been any of the other safari destinations.
And based on just on itinerary alone, if you had to give a letter grade, what would you say?
Oh, definitely an A.
Yeah, A+. Yeah,
plus.
It was great. And we even questioned the safari tour company about taking us to 3 different places. So we did 2 safari parks, and then the Victoria Falls, which also there was a little safari park where we were staying. We saw some animals just right on the property. So we thought perhaps it was a little bit too much travel, but the Natamba, is that how you say it, Pat? They said you definitely want to go to Hwange, which is because I wanted to see the baby elephants. And so we did, and we really, really enjoyed that. So I would not have cut anything out of the 3 places that we went to.
Actually, you had questioned me at one point about whether we should cut something out, and I no, don't. You're going all that way. Don't miss a thing, and they'll take good care of you, and they did. I just want to show this image here, folks. Here's the travel party. So you had 3, I don't know how you count it, 3 or 4 actual generations in this group.
3.
Yes.
Yeah, 3.
Yes.
Yeah, you have Jamie, you and John there, your dad. Jim's right there front and center waving at everybody. I'm telling you, folks, I got to just tell you, this is an incredible gentleman here. He's been going on these trips. We've had him on the Nile River. He's climbed to the top of the Acropolis. This man just doesn't give up. And then, Jamie, is it your cousin?
So behind me is my cousin's wife.
Okay.
Her husband is a general in the army, and he couldn't guarantee that he wouldn't get called back for active duty to do his general things back in the States. So she came with us, and that's my daughter Anna. And then the young man's grinning in the background was that was Hwangi's. He was like the assistant guide. So the real guide is taking the picture. His hat is there, but that was the assistant who sat in the back, and he also provided refreshments.
It was Eric.
Eric.
So people just need not ever tell us, "Oh, I'm too old to travel." Now, granted, your dad couldn't do this if he didn't have some assistance. You know, we wouldn't send him off on his own. But folks, you know, just have that. Just don't stop. Keep going. And you know, he's in the past 10 years, we've had him in some amazing places, and in Greece and Italy and Egypt and now Africa. So I applaud him. Jamie, John, everybody that I know of goes to Africa hoping to see wildlife. Do you feel like it performed for you?
Oh, yeah.
We saw everything. Everything.
So
we even saw a honey badger.
But the two parks are very different. So in Zimbabwe, the sheer number of animals was overwhelming. There are something like 45,000 elephants in the park. I think we saw most of them. And there was
I'm just going to show a few of those elephant images.
Yeah.
So I was thrilled to see these. So many elephants.
Mm-hmm.
And you said,
and that's our camp in the background. So if you go back to that last picture, that's actually our camp, and that just behind the elephant's butt, I think that's our chalet. And so the park was right on this watering hole, and then the elephants are all around the watering hole, and they came even closer. They actually came into the camp at one point.
Oh,
and so did a lion. There was a lion 10 feet from us, drinking from the bird bath.
My word.
Yeah.
That is just so cool. And in addition to all of these wildlife and things, did you find it a learning experience? Would our lifetime learners be happy to do this trip?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, we learned a lot about the different animals. For example, the rhinos, they sever their, see how he looks like he has a little bump there? That's where his horn would have been, but they were being poached and the rhinos were being killed just for their horn. So the safari people took off their horn. So I don't know how they did it, but they just removed it.
They tranquilized them.
And then they just cut it off.
Cut them off with a chainsaw.
Wow.
Yeah, one of our guides in South Africa was in that squad. He was doing that job for a while before he became a game guide.
And that rhino was probably about 10 feet from us. I mean, I was not zoomed. I was zoomed back as far as I could get to get all of his. I couldn't even get his little front foot in there because he was coming toward us. But he was just giving us a notice that he was annoyed with us being on his road.
I was going to say he looks like he's maybe putting you on notice.
He was. He was.
You see, he's got a tag on his ear as well. So when
I see that. Now you pointed that out. I do see that.
Yeah. So the animals are wild, but the rhinos, so when they tranquilize them and cut their horns off to make them non-poachable, they tag them as well so they can keep tracks on the numbers and where they roam to and so on.
So both guides in both places were very helpful. Anytime they'd see an animal, they'd give us the full story of, what it was, some facts about that particular animal, stories about that particular animal. And they would just be, as they're driving, they would be giving you this information. Or if we were coming up to an area, they would give us the history of that area and tell us about like the water levels, how the water got there. They were actually creating water holes because their water supply was so low.
I have heard that Africa has just been having terrible problems with drought. So they're trying to do everything possible to get enough water for these animals to survive and thrive. And guys, I just want to point out, these are your photos. I didn't pull a single, there's no stock photos. This is nothing from anywhere except your own camera. So folks, this is a real deal. This is what Jamie and John saw. I love it. I love a giraffe. These are so cool.
Do you see the baby? You see his little head.
Oh my gosh, I hadn't noticed him.
Yes. He was hiding, and they ran off shortly after that picture, but they were the shyest, I think.
Okay. And do you feel like, you know, with your travel party, as we've talked about, you had an unusual group. You had all kinds of age ranges there, from your daughter in her early 30s on up to 90. Do you feel like everybody got a full chance to participate and engage in the trip?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I think Dad got the royal treatment. They were very insistent on going to get him from his tent, put him in the Jeep. They had his walker with him at all times. 2 very strong young men were helping him around in and out of the Jeep all the time. So he was never left alone except at night to sleep. So, and they were always checking on him. And then, yes, my daughter was thrilled. So there was nothing, everybody had something to do.
Wonderful. That is good to know. And what about, we booked through, we've said Nataba African Safaris, and I connected with them years ago at an event, like it was at Cruise World, I think, where I was just this last week for probably the 10th time. What about if you gave a letter grade to your supplier? What do you think about Nataba Tours? How did they do?
Also A+.
Yes, they were excellent.
Right. So everything worked. When we got off the plane, there was someone there with a sign and pick us up and take us
to
the hotel. Wheelchairs when we needed them at the airports, and then everything worked very smoothly.
Okay, what about accommodations? We saw a picture of your chalet there.
Yeah.
They call that a tent, and Dad was a little.
No, that one was the chalet. That was the thatched chalet.
Oh, okay.
A thatched chalet. Yeah, it was the first one.
But Dad was a little worried. He says, we're going to sleep in a tent. And he was in the Army, so he's thinking a tent. And I said, no, I think they're up off the ground or something like that. But these were nicer than my house. They were gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous.
The first one did not have air conditioning. Which would have been nice because it was 100 degrees. But the Victoria Falls and the South Africa, which were tents, actually had canvas roofs, they did have air conditioning and they were lovely.
Even the tents were that is amazing. What about food? Did they feed you okay?
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
It was gourmet food the whole way, and as much as you could possibly eat. And then we would stop for these breaks while we were out on the game drive. So we'd leave at 5 o'clock in the morning, go out, look at a whole bunch of animals, and then we'd stop for coffee along the side of the river or on a rock or somewhere very scenic. And they would give us some biscuits, or what was the breakfast?
Well, the snacks with breakfast was rusks, wasn't it?
Was that it? Yeah.
Rusks and things like that.
Sort of like toast.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then when you get back, there's a full breakfast, and it was really, really good. Yeah.
Excellent.
Then there'd be lunch, and then we'd go out again in the afternoon, and then you'd stop for happy hour, which was a highlight for everybody. And they'd have some snacks to go with that. And
drinks, of course. They'd ask you what you wanted to drink before you went, and then it would be there. They'd take a hamper out of the Jeep and put it on this little platform at the front of the Jeep
with a tablecloth.
With a tablecloth, and serve drinks and more snacks, and in South Africa there was even a high tea before the game drive. So I think they fed us approximately every 2 hours.
Yeah,
amazing,
really good food.
Delicious.
I want to show just a few of these before we go on farther of these great images you saw. You had quite a few zebras.
Oh yeah, lots of zebras. That was in Hwange.
Okay. Well, here I'm trying to get this to, there. It's moving for me finally. And just.
Yeah.
Yes.
Zebras' butts.
Yeah, I'm getting all kinds of comments of that photo on Facebook.
Well, you know, sometimes you just get the angle you get.
Yes.
And I understand that the pattern on each zebra is almost like a fingerprint for us. None of them are the same. They can tell each other apart. We might have a little more difficulty, but you can recognize them by their pattern. They're all different.
So John will tell this joke better. It was Dave, our first guide, who had a joke about the zebras. Do you remember what it was, John? There were the zebras and the zebras.
Oh, what was it?
One was black with white stripes.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so the zebra was black with white stripes, and the zebra, which is the British and South African pronunciation, was, what did I say? Black was
the opposite. Yeah.
The opposite.
Yeah.
White with black stripes. Okay.
Because the Africans call them zebra the same as the British do.
Okay.
The Americans call them zebra.
Okay, real good. You got some really great images of a particular.
Oh,
yeah.
Wow.
That was our very last day in Hwangi. That was in Kruger. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how far away? I assume you were zooming on these. You were
really 20 feet away.
Yeah, I think Anna took that picture. I passed my camera to her because she was on the other side of the Jeep, and that leopard was probably 10 feet from her.
Wow. That's just all I can say is just wow. That is nothing short of amazing.
Yeah. So the story with the leopard was that we're on our evening game drive, the last evening, and then we had another game drive to come on the last morning. And we were hurtling along dirt roads at about 50 miles an hour to try and get to see this leopard.
Has it been spotted?
But when we got there, we were told, oh, it's gone across the other side of the river. But its prey, this antelope it had killed, was up in a tree. And they said, don't worry, it'll be back in the morning. And so we went back to that same tree in the morning, and sure enough, there was the leopard. And that's when we saw it. And that was our very last game drive. We saw that leopard, and they're very rare. They're very hard to see, but we got a wonderful sighting of the leopard.
And that is something too, because you said the antelope was up in a tree. Now that antelope was not killed up in a tree. It had
no, dragged up the tree by the leopard. I think you can see it in some of the pictures.
I very carefully edited it out of the photos.
Okay. All right. I wasn't seeing it. So, okay. I wasn't missing it. So got it. So that is amazing. I'm so glad you got to see that, and particularly since you got to share those pictures with us. Anything unexpected or just something that took you by surprise that you hadn't expected during the trip?
I didn't know that the animals would be that close, and I didn't know that they were just going to be roaming freely through the camp, which they were. So there was a lion that came, there was a bird bath, and that was at Hwangi. It was our last day there. We were all packed up. I didn't even have my good camera with me. I took the pictures using my cell phone, but this lion came up to the bird bath, which was on, 5-10 feet from the edge of the table where we just had breakfast, and drank out of the bird bath. And it was there for a long time. So we couldn't leave. We couldn't move. We couldn't do anything. It wasn't that particular one. It was a younger one, but it was a male.
But it was a male. Okay. So, wow.
It was, 10 feet from us, no more than that.
Yeah.
Another thing that took me by surprise was at Victoria Falls. I was expecting something like Niagara, where you're kind of standing at the edge looking across at it. But at Victoria Falls, the river zigzags, and you're actually facing it. So you've got these falls which are like 1,000 feet wide, and you're walking along the opposite side of the river, looking directly at it, just like you're looking straight across the river. It's incredible.
Wow.
And we were there at just the right time of year, because when the water flow is highest, you can't really see very much because there's so much mist. And when the water flow is even lower than it is now, it's not so spectacular. But we were there at just the right time. Just lots of water flowing, but not so much mist that we couldn't see it.
And what was the date of your trip again, just so our viewers will know when they can plan their trip?
October 6 to 18, we were there. Yeah.
Oh,
that's on the Zambezi River. So when we were at Victoria Falls, we went on a river cruise, a river dinner cruise on the Zambezi. And that's where that was taken.
Now, I hear that probably, I don't know if your guides tell you, but more people are killed by far by hippos in Africa than by lions or any of the predators that people think that would be most dangerous. Like you were within 10 feet of these lions and leopards, and nobody was particularly concerned.
Yeah, I'd also heard that, but one of our guides said he thought that was not true. So
okay,
we did give the hippos a lot of room though, because they swim and they go underwater, so you don't know where they are. So if they come up under your boat, you've got a problem. But we watched them from the edge of the river, and the last day we were there, they were running around because normally they were underwater the whole time, but they were running around above water.
Well, that's because it was dark, wasn't it? They run around at night.
Then the next morning. Yeah,
spend all day in the water, all day in the water, keeping out of the way, and then come out at night to graze.
Yeah. Sounds like the life, doesn't it? And here's what I got to just show this one. Oh, yeah. What the hyena.
That's a hyena,
yeah. What a funny animal they are.
Yes.
They're not afraid of humans at all. In fact, it was one of our happy hours. We all started getting back in the Jeep, and a hyena was cleaning up the crumbs. We hadn't even left, and he was already there.
Already. They are great scavengers, I understand, and noisy, they say.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It could be quite noisy. Now, who would you think that you would, if you were to tell people who among what kind of travelers do you think should be going to Africa?
I think anybody. I mean, if my dad could do it, anybody can do it. It's not strenuous at all. You just sit in the Jeep and they drive you around and show you animals. And the 17-hour flight, our nonstop flight, it was actually quite relaxing. We watched movies, we slept, we had lots of time and didn't feel exhausted when we landed because we'd had a lot of just time to relax.
And sleep.
When you think about that, actually, you're on that plane longer. Those of us on the East Coast, when we go to Europe, we get on the plane, you have dinner. By the time you're feeling sleepy, they're turning the lights back on and getting ready to serve you breakfast. So in many ways, you might have more jet lag when you're headed to Europe than after one of those long flights. Just speculating.
Exactly right. Yeah.
So
because we all got some sleep.
Now, everything has a downside other than the travel. Can you think of what would you say was the downside of your trip?
It seemed a downside at the time, but I think we just needed to get used to it. So the very first place we went was so remote, there was no internet. And that, yeah. My 30-year-old daughter was kind of having withdrawals. But once we knew there was no internet, and then I actually found out they did have internet. You just had to ask, and they would turn it on, and you could log in, and then you could do your business and then log back out. So I had to deal with one particular issue, and it took 5 minutes, and it was done.
Excellent. Well, hey, that could be a blessing or a curse. I would be very personally having a business. I would be kind of nervous without having at least be able to check my messages once a day. So good to know if you ask, they will give it to you. So that's good. Otherwise, it can be, I could finally get a vacation maybe.
That's right. Because they were relying on solar power. So they were minimizing any type of electricity. So they had it, but they didn't leave it on because it used up the electricity. It wasn't that they were trying to deprive you of it. It was just a conservation issue.
Right. You had to decide whether you were going to have lights when it got dark or if you were going to surf the internet. So yeah, everything's a trade-off. John and Jamie, thank you so much for sharing with us your experience in Africa. I just can't imagine that we have anyone out there who couldn't just really enjoy a trip like this. And folks, just let us know here at Dancing Moon Travel if we can help you with your Africa trip or any other destination that's on your bucket list. Because at Dancing Moon Travel, we do choreograph dreams. And we currently, we are up to 8 agents now strategically located throughout the U.S. and available to help you with whatever kind of travel that you have in mind for your next dream vacation. Jamie and John, thank you again for joining us. So appreciate you guys. And I'm so happy that your trip indeed was a trip of a lifetime. Thanks again. Bye, everybody. Tune in again next time for another episode of Let's Talk Travel.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye.